Hello, friends. Before we begin, I want to ask you to subscribe if the things we talk about here truly resonate with you and help you look at your life a little more honestly. And if there's a topic that's been on your mind or something you've wanted to explore, leave it in the comments. Your thought might become the next conversation we dive into. You know, a lot of people call themselves lazy, as if it's the simplest explanation for everything happening in their lives. But when you look closer, you start to realize that it's usually not about laziness at all. Laziness is just a convenient label, a short word you can hide behind when the truth is far more uncomfortable. You simply don't know where to go next. And instead of admitting that openly, instead of facing the uncertainty head-on, it's easier to stick the word lazy on your forehead. Because laziness sounds softer than confusion, easier than admitting you've lost direction, and safer than dealing with the inner chaos that rises every time you try to understand what you actually want from your own life. So you sit there, calling it laziness, while deep down you know it's something else. You just can't see a point worth moving toward. And when there is no point, every movement feels meaningless. Every action feels heavy. Every attempt feels empty. You're not lazy. You're stuck. And that's the part no one ever says out loud. Because when a person has a real goal, something that truly matters to them, something that stirs something inside, they don't search for motivation. They simply go. Even if it's scary, even if it's messy, even if every step feels like a fight. But without a goal, you can sleep as much as you want, rest as much as you want, curse your laziness every day. Nothing will change. Because there's nowhere to move. And here's another truth. What you call laziness often shows up when you've been living a life that doesn't feel like yours. You keep doing what you should, not what you want. You keep convincing yourself to push through, to pull yourself together, to finally start. But inside, you're dimming out. Because that path was never yours to begin with. And your mind, instead of pushing you forward, begins to hold you back in every possible way. And you call it laziness, even though it's just resistance to a life that doesn't fit you anymore. There's also the part where you do want to move, but you're afraid to admit that the direction you feel drawn to might not work out, that it might expose your weaknesses, that it might show you're not as strong, not as prepared, not as certain as you pretend to be. And to avoid facing that fear, you choose inaction. Because inaction is safe. There are no mistakes there, no failure, no risk. It's a hiding place. But the danger is that if you hide long enough, you start to believe the label you gave yourself. And suddenly it's not fear, not confusion, not the lack of direction that controls your life, but the idea that something is fundamentally wrong with you. When in reality, everything happening to you is just the absence of an honest conversation with yourself about where you actually want to go, and why you've been standing still for so long. And the real problem begins when this state of being stuck slowly becomes the way you live, because it never happens suddenly. It begins quietly, almost invisibly. One postponed task, one avoided decision, one day where you let things slide because nothing bad will happen. And truly, nothing happens. Not today, not tomorrow, and that's exactly why it grows. You get used to the silence of inaction, to the safety of not choosing, to the comfort of telling yourself later. Because later sounds harmless, later sounds reasonable, later softens the guilt. And while you say later, days begin to blend together, turning into weeks, and then months. And at some point you stop noticing the moment when the future you kept pushing forward simply stopped arriving. That's how the pattern forms. Not from laziness, but from repetition. Every time you avoid movement, your brain learns that standing still is easier, safer, less painful. It rewards you with a small wave of relief, the kind that feels good for a minute, but leaves a strange heaviness afterward. And over time, that heaviness becomes familiar, almost comfortable. And here's the dangerous part. The more you avoid action, the less you believe you're capable of it. Not because you are weak, but because you've trained yourself to expect nothing from your own hands. And once this belief settles inside you, it becomes a quiet background noise whispering, "Don't start. You'll stop anyway." That's when being stuck becomes your default state. Not because you chose it consciously, but because it grew around you like a habit, shaped by fear, by uncertainty, by the comfort of postponing real decisions. And when this pattern becomes strong enough, you start calling it laziness. Because it's easier to blame a trait than to look at the slow erosion of your direction. But deep down, you feel it. You feel that you're not tired. You're disconnected. You're not unmotivated. You're unsure where the path even begins. And until you face that truth, every attempt to fight your laziness will feel like an uphill battle against something you can't even name. And the truth is this: when you stay stuck long enough, you start believing there's something wrong with you. You begin to think you're lazy by nature, that you're not built for discipline, that other people have something you don't. But the real reason is much simpler. You've been walking without direction for too long, and your life slowly drifted off its track. When I once found myself in this exact place, where every day looked the same, where everything important was postponed, where I called it laziness even though deep inside I knew I was simply afraid to admit I had lost my path, I realized that the only way out wasn't motivation, wasn't inspiration, and certainly wasn't waiting for the right moment. It was small, honest steps. So here are the 4 steps I used myself when I was stuck in that same quiet darkness. Not theories, not pretty ideas, just what actually works when you do it truthfully. Step 1. Understand where you truly want to move. To understand where you should go, you have to admit something uncomfortable. You've been living on autopilot. Your days follow the same pattern, not because this path is yours, but because it's familiar, predictable, safe. And as long as you stay inside that loop, no direction will appear. Direction doesn't grow when nothing changes. So your first task is simple. Ask yourself honestly, what actually stirs something in me? Not what is smart, not what is profitable, not what others expect, but what sparks even the smallest sense of curiosity or pull. It might be something tiny, something you never took seriously, a thought you kept pushing away because it felt too small or not the right time. But that small spark is your direction. Not a full map, not a 5-year plan, just a quiet signal pointing you forward. Don't demand clarity, demand honesty. Clarity, honesty. Clarity comes later, always to those who begin walking. Step 2. Take one small, concrete action. A small action is how you break the inertia. Big goals intimidate you. Big tasks drain you before you start. Big plans feel overwhelming, but a tiny step feels safe. So safe your mind cannot reject it. Choose something that takes 2 to 5 minutes. That's all. Write one sentence. Walk for 10 minutes. Open the document and look at it without forcing yourself to write a masterpiece. Clear one item from your table. The power is not in changing your life. It's in breaking your stillness. Every small action sends your brain a message. Movement is possible. Do it daily, and your mind stops treating action as a threat. Repetition replaces fear. Habit replaces laziness. Step 3. Remove the noise that suffocates your mind. Most people don't suffer from laziness. They suffer from overload. Too many notifications, too many distractions, too much scrolling, too much comparison, too many emotional micro-hits stealing your attention. When your mind is overstimulated, it shuts down. Not because you're weak, but because you're drowning. Removing noise doesn't mean running away from life or deleting everything. It means simple, conscious steps. Turn off unnecessary notifications. Keep your phone in another room while working. Clean the environment around you. Reduce the constant stream of stimulation. You'll be shocked by how quickly energy returns once the noise fades. Your strength isn't gone. It's buried under everything that distracts you. Clear the noise, and your desire to act comes back on its own. Step 4. Move even when you don't feel ready. This is the step most people avoid, because everyone waits for readiness, and readiness never comes first. You won't wake up magically motivated. You won't suddenly feel strong enough. You won't one day become the person who acts. Readiness is something you earn by acting, not something you wait for. So you must move, especially when you feel resistance, when you're not in the mood, when the day feels heavy, when the mind whispers, "Not today." Because these moments are the real turning points. You don't need big actions. You don't need perfection. You don't need confidence. You just need to begin. One small step breaks the ice. The next creates momentum. The third becomes habit. And suddenly you're not waiting for inspiration anymore. You're simply moving. Laziness stops being a monster in your life. It becomes just a signal. Slow down a little, but don't stop. And if there's one thing I want you to take from all of this, it's that you're not broken for feeling stuck. You're not weaker than others. You're not lazy by nature. You're a human being who lost connection with his own direction. And it happens quietly, gradually, almost without a trace. But the moment you take even the smallest step out of that stillness, you begin to understand something simple. Movement brings you back to yourself. Not instantly, not dramatically, but slowly. The same way you once drifted away. And if you follow these steps honestly, without pressure, without trying to prove anything to the world, you'll see that laziness was never your identity. It was just a protective reaction to a life that stopped leading you. where you needed to go. So if something in today's conversation touched you, even slightly, don't ignore it. This isn't motivation. It isn't inspiration. It's a signal that there's still a part of you that wants to move forward. Let that part take the first step. And as always, if there's a topic, a thought, or a question you want to explore deeper, write it in the comments. Your message might become the foundation of the next conversation. And if what you heard today felt close to you, subscribe so we can continue this path together, one step at a time.